Everything started because this is part of the collection of South Asian Institute. They're part of the owners called Handel Collection. So we had a space for exhibition. I'm the exhibition manager here, so I basically do the scheduling for like 3 years in advance for exhibitions. I went for what I gravitated towards. I started looking at the works that they had in their collection and what else could fit in, and I started looking mostly at works on paper, also having this thought of poetry that also came from the founders. When I started and choose all the works basically here in the exhibition and had a kind of curated list, it gravitated towards women artists, given a space and the rightful kind of spotlight that they deserve. I gave them the choice to choose the work that they gravitated towards. It starts with a theme that I can relate to, that is migration, and that longing of home. And obviously, most of us that migrated to the U.S., we know this feeling. We know we can relate to.
To give a mundane example, it's like a gumbo, right? South Asian culture is not one and done. There's separate communities, there's different kind of tribes, there's different languages from north, south, east, and west. So as you rightly said, so the language barrier can get very daunting. It's really interesting when you walk into a space and suddenly you see Urdu on one side, Tamil on the other side, Hindi on one side, and all of them belong to the same subcontinent or the same collection of countries that now is South Asia. So to approach this would be, one, you would have to take a deep breath and let your mind open up to the possibility of a mosaic of cultures rather than a melting pot of cultures. Because I think that's the fundamental difference. USA is a melting pot, whereas India is Pakistan. Even in Pakistan, there's different ethnic communities, right? Nepal, Sri Lanka, they're all mosaics. So there's just you can see the differences, but they're still kind of similar.
Yeah.
So the artwork and the way we think is also pretty much the way we live. That there's a lot going on. There's eclectic ideas, and there's a cultural aspect of what would people back home think. What is life going to be like this now for me? Me in the US versus me in Pakistan, me in US versus me in India. There's two different lives that I'm living.
Right.
So we're working in tandems with two different lives. All of that put together, when you try to encapsulate that into art, it's very difficult to just, accept it for, okay, this is South Asian art. How, you have Vietnamese, you have Indonesian, you have Indian, and then you have some Sri Lankan and Nepali art all in one area, but with no context.
Yes.
So when you enter that space, you're just sort of lost. There's no harm in asking, well, what does this mean? And if the answer is, I don't know, it's okay to accept the I don't know as an answer. Because sometimes traditions from 1910 versus tradition in 2010. So different, because we're constantly evolving, and especially if you take a developing nation that is trying to become a developed nation, you have that angle of, how do developed countries function? What is the standardization of that? Does this mean that developing countries have a different cultural identity? Or what does that mean for having separate cultural identities in the same space? So there's all of these political and other socio-political angles that come into mind, right? But if you start thinking of each of them, you're going to get so tired, right? So it's easier to just ask, what does this mean? Maybe I don't know yet. Maybe I'll do research. Maybe I choose not to do the research. It's almost like you're entering a market, doing some window shopping and leaving without actually taking something with you. If you look at Eurocentric perspectives of art, there's the element of colonialism, there's also the element of, the white cube and the aesthetics that appeal to European tastes. But that doesn't really appeal to, say, if you look at an M.F. Hussain or a Ravi Verma, right? That those pieces, they don't really speak to all of the European sensibilities. They did take moments from the European School of Art for those aesthetics. So you will see the same kind of, fine art, I say this with heavy quotes, fine art in the South Asian continents. But when it comes to contemporary South Asian art, we're trying to break away from that lens and something that is distinctly Pakistani, distinctly Indian. What does that mean? What does that mean to be Desi? Then that's a rabbit hole of questions that you lead into.